אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה.
Welcome back to the weekly Parsha perspective, the Torah perspective on a double Saturday this week, Acharei Kedoshim. So let's have a few observations. First, the way Acharei kicks off. The very first pasuk, by the Ber Hashem el Moshe, Acharei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron B'kol Vasom Livnei Hashem V'yamusu. And Hashem spoke to Moshe when Acharei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron, after the death of the two sons of Aaron, B'kol Vasom Livnei Hashem, when they brought close, or maybe when they came close to Hashem, Vayamusu, and then died. And it is followed by a long description of what we know to be the order of service or the procedure or the way the korbanos, the offerings of the Yom Kippur service were being brought. Interestingly enough, doesn't mention that it's Yom Kippur. Only after 28 psukim in Pasuk 29, it then says, and this is connected with Yom Kippur. It is unclear whether the entire description in these 28 first psukim, or rather these 28 first psukim, is a description of the Yom Kippur service or no. The Yom Kippur service is an occasion when Aaron is commanded to go into the Kedoshim, and what this week said, the first 28 psukim say, is whenever Aaron wants to come into the Kedoshim, lifnai v'lifnim, mibeis laparelches, as it says, behind the curtain, then this is how he should do it. Bezos yovo Aaron el hakodesh, as it says in a few psukim later. Bezos yovo Aaron el hakodesh. With this, we will see what this means. With this, Aaron should come into the Kodesh Kedoshim, b'far ben bokor, with a cow of the cattle, lechatos, as a chatos offering, v'ayil la'olo, and a ram as a aulo offering. We discussed in previous talks what the difference is between chatos, which is usually translated as sin offering, but it really doesn't mean sin. It means an offering for inadvertent, unintentional, but nevertheless negligent forms of not following the way of the Torah. An Olo is, as we discussed earlier, a different type of korban. It is a korban of total dedication to Hashem, symbolized by the fact that the entire korban is being burnt on the Mizbeach. Bezos yovo Aaron el hakodesh. You could read it whenever he wants to do that, then this is how he should do it. And then followed by what he should do. He should wash, he should wear certain big dekorunas, certain vestments, certain garments. But if he wants to do that on any Monday or Thursday, he can do it. That's one way of reading it. The other way of reading it is, no. Actually, it tells us what the ritual is, and he can do it only once a year, right? Because it says, he can't go any time just into the Kodesh Kedoshim. And again, you can read that in two different ways. B'chol eis meaning without any preparation, or b'chol eis any other date than Yom Kippur. And both interpretations, both opinions, are found in the commentators, and you can see support for both, because if he should not come at just any time into the Kedoshim, is interpreted but only on Yom Kippur, you can ask the question, so tell me then, at that spot, only once a year. It doesn't say that. So that is support for the other opinion that says B'chol Eis should be interpreted as whenever he wants, but not stam azoi, not just like without any preparation. You can't just walk in. Bezos Ela Kodesh. This is the way you should come. Okay. That's one question. Another question is, why mention again the death of the two sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, who died? The story is described in an earlier parsha in Shmini. They died in a certain way. We will see how they died. It doesn't mention here anything that we didn't know already from Parsha Shmini. Let me read Parsha Shmini. You find it in the 10th perek, right in the beginning. Let me read the psukim. Vayikchu v'nei Aaron, Nadav v'Avihu, and the two sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, they took ish machtosar, each one his censer, the plate on which you put ketoras. Vayitnu vohen, and they put in these censers, on these plates, eish, fire. Vayosimo leho ketoras, and then they put on it ketoras, incense. Vayakrivu lifnei Hashem, eish zoa, and they brought before Hashem strange fire. Ashalot sivo also, which he had not commanded them. Again, two different interpretations here. What is it that he had not commanded them? That they should come and bring ketoras. It was certainly out of order. They were not commanded to come and bring ketoras. Or is it the eish zoro asher laut siva alsom? Is it the strange fire? And what was so strange about that fire? Next pasuk says, by teitzei eish milifnei Hashem, and fire went out from before Hashem, vatalchal alsom, and it consumed them, vayomusu, and they died, lifnei Hashem, before Hashem. Vayomer Moshe, and Moshe said, El Aaron, to Aaron, Hu asher diber Hashem lemar. This is what Hashem said with these words. Bikrovai ekodesh, through or by those who are closest to me, krovai, bikrovai ekodesh, through or by those who are closest to me, I shall be sanctified. Va'al penei cholaom ekovet, and before or in the presence of the entire nation, I shall, my glory shall be displayed. Let's translate it that way. Vayidam Aaron, and Aaron was silent. Very, very charged psukim, very much needing explanation, understanding. So let me offer to you one understanding that I think homes into what we're talking about here. The fire that should be used to burn the incense is fire that they should take from the Mizbeach, from the altar. And that fire on the altar had been ignited by fire from heaven. There is a mitzvah to also add your own fire to that fire on the Mizbeach, and from there you should take fire to burn the incense. What they did, however, is they burned the incense purely with their own fire. They didn't take fire from the Mizbeach. This is one opinion, one explanation. Let's note that there are two fires here. There is the Eish Zoro, the strange fire, which we just paid attention to, that they brought, Asher laut Sivo Osum, which he had not commanded them. And there is another fire, what they say, Eish milifnei Hashem, and the fire went out from Hashem, and it consumed them, and they died before Hashem. Again, a double expression. The fire went out milifnei Hashem, from before Hashem, vayamusu lifnei Hashem, and they died before Hashem. Now, let's take a few steps back and think about what we have discussed over the Sedris right from the beginning of the building of the Mishkan back in Sefer Shmos. Until here, it has been a whole repetition, or not repetition, a whole developing story of how do we get Hashem into our world. The Inyan of the Mishkan, the matter of the tabernacle. The Mishkan is called tabernacle. Tabernacle is a wrong translation. Mishkan means dwelling place. And it is an attempt to connect to Hashem in our world, in our created world, which I've emphasized a number of times is an insane idea to start with. It is an illogical idea that the creator of the universe should be present in his creation. There couldn't be two entities or two focal points further removed than the creator and his creation. We make a strict distinction between the created world and the creator. That's one aspect. It's called the transcendence of God. The philosophers have words for these things, but we should try to connect to these words not in philosophical terms, but in existential terms and in terms of our own inner life, our own spirituality, and try to gauge what the Torah is telling us about Jewish spirituality. Is it religious fervor achieved in whatever way you can, even with the help of substances, or music maybe, or some other forms? That, my friends, is Eish Zora, strange fire. Asher laut Sivo Asom, which he has not commanded them. We have seen a number of times that the confrontation with, how do I say this, the holiness of Hashem, the utter otherness of Hashem. Holiness means to be separated from, or to be set apart, right? If you dedicate something and you put something apart from other things, you make it hekdesh. You designate it as not belonging to where it came from. It now belongs to where you bring it. That is how an animal becomes hekdesh. You say, it was just an animal in my flock, now it becomes a korban. You can't use it for anything else anymore. That's one way of understanding this concept of Kedushim. Another way is that we call marriage Kedoshim. It means to set a person, your wife, apart as the only partner that she has in life is you. It's a complete dedication, one to the other. It's a two-way street, obviously. And so that's Kedoshim. So Hashem is Kadosh. Hashem is the utter other. You want to come, at the same time, Hashem is also the deepest reason for being itself. He, as I've said previously, his name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Havayo, or we pronounce it, of course, as Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. But the essential name is Yud Kei Vav Kei, a Yud, a Hey, a Vav, and a Hey. That means, Hoyo Hawa V'yiyeh, his existence is independent from time, he is above time, but also Mahave Kol Havayas. He is the causation for anything that is. In other words, all being is derived from him. Therefore, the Torah tells us, Ein od milvado, there is nothing but him. In the deepest understanding of what this world is all about, everything else is completely nullified, is completely bottled, completely without any existence compared to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But my friends, that you can't live like that. we have to eat, we have to protect ourselves, we have to survive, and we have to leave offspring in the world. We live an embodied life. For that life to be able to exist, it must be, we spoke about it last week, it must maintain its own integrity. You come close to Hashem, your individuality disappears. There's no room for you anymore. To such an extent that our, call it mystical tradition, Kabbalah, whatever you call it, says that in order to create the world, the Creator chose to, or did, so to say, contract himself. It's called tzimtzum, right? Tzimtzum means contraction, but it means making place for something else. As they say in German, etwas zweites, or in Yiddish, noch eine Sache, right? Which is a paradox to the Creator, who is the essence of all being. It means that my individuality and the holiness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are on that level incompatible. So how can I come close to him? How can I come close and still maintain my own individuality? In other words, how can I come close to him when I come close to him? There's no room for me anymore. This is, on some level, the meaning of what the Torah tells us. Lo yirani ha'odam v'chai. Man cannot see me and live. Right? But later on in this double sedra this week, we read a pasuk that seems the exact opposite. Asher ya'aseh asom ha'odam v'chai bohem. The mitzvahs, the directions for life, the way to worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Asher Yaseh Asam Odom, which man shall do v'chai bohem, and live through them, giving us an opportunity to have that individual life, to have that, to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and still be who you are. That needs understanding. Because it seems to be that reasoning from first principles, it shouldn't be possible. And here comes the miracle that the Torah gives us. The Torah gives us a framework in which we can, step by step, in degrees, come closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But not with just anything. You can't just walk in and set up some religious experience somehow, right? Whether you do that with red strings around your wrist or some other man-made purported shortcuts, doesn't work that way. It only works bezos yovar aron el HaKodesh. With this procedure, with this way, you can come close. You try some other way, you're not going to be punished. The sons of Aaron were not punished with this fire. They incurred death. Because they brought this Eish Zorah, and they were Teitze Eish Milivnei Hashem. And then fire came from Hashem. The fire that they should have taken from the Mizbeach in the framework as you should do in order to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Instead, they chose to take their own fire, and now that same fire that could have brought them close to Hashem, the fire from the Mizbeach, it is now Eish milifnei Hashem. I wouldn't even be surprised if I would have not looked for it, but if I would find an opinion that that fire that burns them actually was the fire from the Mizbeach. Don't know. I don't know enough to tell you that. But Vatelchel Osom, it consumed them. The Medrash actually says it consumed them by entering their nostrils and burned them from the inside, and their clothes were not even singed. They died from within. And with this perspective that we now develop, we can understand this. It destroyed their self, their inner self. And then their bodily life became impossible. Vayomusu. And as a consequence, they died. Lifnei Hashem. Because they came so close that they were burned. Burned from the inside. This notion of coming too close and then burning is something that even the Goyim in the mythology understand that. Remember the story of Icarus, who wanted to come close to the sun, and he got wings, and he made himself wings, and they were attached to his arms by wax, and he came too close to the sun, and the wax melted, and he fell to earth and died. That was Icarus. That's, of course, just a mythology from the non-Jewish world. But sometimes you find in these mythologies ideas that you get the feeling that they somehow instinctively felt that something is going on here, and they had their interpretation. We don't have to rely on mythology to get these insights. All we have to do is learn the words of the Torah. The Torah tells us. The Torah tells us, "Vatelchel Osom," this fire milifnei Hashem, vayomusu lifnei Hashem, and they died because they were lifnei Hashem. Then Moshe commented to Aaron, "Hu asher diber Hashem." This is what Hashem said when he said, "Bikrovai ekodesh." When do you discover this awesome holiness of Hashem? When you come close. Bikrovai, by those who come closest to me, ekodesh. Not I'm punishing them, not I'm killing them because somehow I feel insulted that they barged into my house or something like that. Those are silly notions. That's not what the Torah is telling us. What the Torah is telling us is, you want to have true spirituality, then this is not a do-it-yourself job. You need guidance. You need guidance in the correct way of doing that. And you have to do it in such a way that your life is preserved. Asher yaseh asom ha'odom v'chai bohem. It doesn't say Asher yaseh asom Yisrael v'chai bohem. It says any human being, wherever he is, whatever nation he belongs to, needs to know that there is a creator, and the creator is so unbelievably distinct from his creation that if you want to have a relationship with him, and you want to because you are created by him, you have a spark of this holiness in you that longs to be connected to its creator. Don't experiment with this. Don't set up rituals that you invent yourself. This is not the way. The way is the way of the Torah. This is, of course, Rabotai, my friends. This is why Parshas Acharei Mos has these two sections. One section about Yom Kippur, the Yom Kippur ritual, which then ends with telling us how Yom Kippur functions. Once a year, on the 10th day of the 7th month, it shall be a Shabbos. It shall be a day that you cease your activities, but not just cease your activity. You cease to even care for your physical existence. Doesn't mean that if the doctor says you shouldn't fast, you shouldn't fast. You should Asher Yaseh Odom V'chai Bohem. You should live by it, not die by it. But the symbolism or the understanding of the 5 Inuim, of the 5 afflictions or reactions, the Inui is related to La'anos, means to answer, it means to react. Those 5 ways are all not eating, not drinking, not washing your body, and refraining from marital relations. It is like a disembodiment of the human life. For one day a year, we freeze time, we freeze space, and we freeze our normal existence to be confronted with the holiness of Hashem. Our tefillahs on Yom Kippur are not the whole time al chet shechatonu. No, they are mostly about the holiness of Hashem. That's what we're talking about. And this whole parsha doesn't talk about all the things that we clap al chet for. I think it's the other way around. Once we realize the holiness of Hashem, once we realize how fraught with danger our confrontation with this holiness is, we realize that there are certain things in our life that need to be fixed. In the grand scheme of things, we can see Acharei speaks about the ritual of Yom Kippur. It's followed by a whole parsha that we read Yom Kippur afternoon in the Mincha service about forbidden intimate relations. That we need to regulate our life, our embodied life, on every single level. And then we get Parshas Kedoshim. Parshas Kedoshim is filled, like a pomegranate is filled with pips, with directions of how you can import a little bit of this holiness that you are confronted with in Parshas Acharei, how you can implement that, realize that in your own embodied life. It says, Kedoshim tiyu, ki kodosh ani. You should be holy because I'm holy. That's a wrong translation. It doesn't mean you should be holy. You can't command somebody to be holy. Right? In one moment he is not holy, and then you tell him, be holy. Right? What's he going to do? No. It means become holy. Right? Kedoshim tiyu means become holy. And it's spelled without a vav. It is not that complete holiness, ki kodash ani, when it says, because I am holy, that's spelled with a vav. Our kedusha, or our sanctified embodied life, doesn't even come near to the kedusha of Hashem. Of course not. It doesn't mean that we cannot be on a trajectory that asymptotically comes nearer and nearer and nearer without ever reaching it, and do it in such a way that we have a full, embodied, vibrant, earthly, material life that is regulated by, don't behave in this way, don't behave in that way, have regard for the stranger, look after him, if he needs support him, don't charge interest, don't treat animals in a certain way, don't drink blood. There are tons and tons and tons of mitzvahs that we find in Parshas Kedoshim, which all have to do with importing this experience of coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and giving it form, giving it, as they say in Old French, hand op vis, to root it and to plant it firmly in our midst, not in monasteries and not on mountaintops, but right in the middle of our embodied life, where we get the opportunity to use that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, this precious thing of being ourselves, of having a life, to say, let that reflect something of the holiness of the Creator. That's all I have to say this week. Wish you good Shabbos.
והוא עובר, והוא עובר, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציא נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציא נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא עובר בתפארה, והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה.